Lecture 7 in the course of 10. We keep talking about project management in software development teams, and this time we discuss communications. So how you put the resources together, who are people in your case, who are programmers, testers, QA experts, designers, DevOps, all the people who create the product. So your job is to make sure that they communicate correctly. They're not going to communicate only with you, they will communicate to each other. And very often the broken communications and mistakes in communications, they may lead to catastrophic problems in the management in general. So no matter how high quality is your scope management, no matter how well you control the costs, no matter how well you control the timeline, if people don't communicate, if they misunderstand each other, then probably you're not going to be able to fix that with just the other instruments which we discussed before and we'll discuss in other lectures. So communications management is all about putting people together and making sure they understand each other and they understand in the most effective way. So if you don't manage communications, they will eventually understand somehow each other. They will find a way, the information will find its way, but it may be not as productive, as effective, as proper as it would be if you do it, if you put it under control. So management is, like we discussed, management, like we discussed many times, management is all about knowing what's going on. It's all about observing the reality. It's all about predicting the future. It's not so much about telling people what to do. Actually, the proper project management is absolutely not about telling people what to do. It's about understanding how they do things and then giving them rules and giving them regulations which they follow. And if they follow them, they start working more effectively. This is what, in my understanding, the good project management is about. It's about defining the proper formats, the proper schemas and mechanisms of how people work with each other. Only a bad manager will put himself or herself in the shoes of a dictator and dictate every day or tell people every day what they need to be, what they need to do every day or every week, every month. That's not. That's not how we should manage projects. That's not how PMBOK is teaching us. We have to be the designers of work environment for people. We have to be like lawmakers who make traffic rules. I gave you this metaphor a few times already. So imagine you have a city and you are the governor of the city, so the mayor of the city. So you have to make sure that people live their life happily and that they enjoy their life and they don't have traffic accidents. Then they safely can get from home to their work place. You don't stand next to them and don't tell them how to drive their cars. You just observe how they do it. You just see how they communicate on the road. You see how they spend their time on the road. You see how much time it takes to get from the point A to point B. And then you understand that something is wrong with the rules, something is wrong with their communication principles. And then you get in and define additional laws, or maybe you remove the previous laws. That's how you affect their lives. You don't even sometimes talk to them. You don't even discuss with them whether it's the right choice or a wrong choice. There's new laws. Well, ideally you should communicate with them, but a good project manager, a really professional one, doesn't even need to communicate the changes and the rules, because all the changes made, they will be positively, they will positively affect the situation, positively affect the reality. So communicating, I think the communicating on the changes in the rules is required only when the rules are supposed to disturb the majority of people, the most effective people, the most productive people. Then in this case, you need to communicate, but maybe in this case, you don't need to make the changes in the rules. So all the changes you make, all the new principles and laws you introduce to the work environment, they should be in favor of people's happiness. Let's put it this way. So communications, as usual, we start with 8 questions. We structure the lecture in 8 questions. So we start with, now I announce you the questions. You try to make the answers. So take your notebooks and write down. And at the end of the lecture, we'll see how many correct answers you gave. So, question 1. A customer asks you, "What's up? How's my project going?" What do you answer? First, you say, "Why do you ask?" So you're confused of this question. Answer 2, you give the customer two numbers, CPI, SPI. We discussed them on the previous lectures about cost management and time management, so maybe you remember them. Answer 3, you're just saying we're behind the schedule but on the budget. Answer 4, we're fully committed to deliver on time as promised. So you report your status this way. So choose the answer which sounds more reasonable to you. Question 2, a new programmer joins your team. How do you explain her the architecture of the software? Answer 1, let her spend time in pair programming with a mentor. So you put somebody next to her, some more senior or more experienced programmer in the team, and then they work together for some time doing pair programming. You know what it is, I'm sure. Well, pair programming is when we have one computer and two programmers. So they work together with one computer, one keyboard. One of them is typing, another one is suggesting what to type, and then they probably change places. That's very effective for learning new things, for understanding how things work, and to know each other. That's a very good mechanism of making new friends in the office. Answer 2, show her the code. You just show the code and let her study the code by herself. Answer 3, schedule a meeting with the entire team. So you just put together everybody who knows how the architecture is designed, and they just explain to her. It's maybe effective, just 1 hour or something, maybe a few hours, and then all the information will be transferred to her in just one big batch. And the answer 4, you don't. So you just don't explain. Also, maybe a reasonable answer. Number 3, on a daily stand-up meeting, where everybody is standing up in front of a manager, in front of a scrum master, or actually in front of everybody. So they make sort of a circle. One programmer, when you ask him, you're the project manager, he says, well, you ask, what have you done yesterday? And he keeps saying, so day after day, I don't remember. So how do you fix that? Answer 1, you fire him for this sabotage of your management. Answer 2, ask him to be more respectful to the team, because everybody tell everybody what was done yesterday, so you expect this guy to do the same. Answer 3, you demand written daily reports. Just ask him, do the reports in writing from now on, because maybe you don't feel comfortable telling us in the meeting what have you done, so start emailing me. Or answer 4, stop asking him. So don't ask these questions anymore. Maybe it will help. Question 4, you see that meetings in your team take too much time. People waste time in long and chaotic discussions. How do you fix this? It happens in most meetings. This is the reality we all know. People spend too much time in the meetings. They discuss things which are sometimes irrelevant to the problem at hand, the problem on the table. So how do you fix this if you are the manager, if this happens in your team? Answer 1, request meeting agendas. So ask them to plan the meetings properly. Answer 2, demand meeting minutes. So ask them to report the summary of the meeting when the meeting is over. Answer 3, appoint meeting facilitator. So somebody has to be at the meeting as a facilitator, as a coordinator of the discussion, who will lead the discussion and make sure the discussion goes the right way. Or you reduce the amount of meetings. So just make less meetings. Maybe it will help. Question 5. After you allowed your team to work remotely, the performance of a few programmers dropped significantly. How do you fix this? We just let everybody work from home, and then you see that a few people just stopped working, or just they contribute way less than before. First, you make regular daily Zoom calls with them. So just call them every day and check what's going on. Just establish the communication more, improve the communication. This lecture is all about communication, so maybe this is the right answer. Option 2, fire them because they stopped working remotely. Maybe it's time to find another place, another company. Option 3, pay them more. Maybe that will help them. Or option 4, ask them to return back to the office. Maybe in the office they will again work better than before, than remotely. Question 6. Your programmers are paid on a monthly basis, and you can't change that. So they just get the money by the end of the month. The month is over, they get the money. The project is boring, and team performance is very low. So they just don't like it, they just don't see any fun in this project, and they just don't contribute. So what can you do? First, you fix the communication. You communicate project objectives regularly. So tell them what this project is for, improve the motivation. Option 2, you make regular daily stand-up meetings. So check every day what's going on, and that's how you improve the situation. Answer 3, ask everybody to send daily reports. Just mm, let them be more bureaucratic. So summarize their results by the end of the day. Or you just find a better job as a manager. You just leave this project because there's no hope to fix anything. Question 7. A programmer didn't complete his task and explains to you, I misunderstood the ticket description. And that's why I didn't complete the task. So I didn't produce any results because I didn't know what to do. This is caused by low quality of what? Remember, we were discussing quality management. So we agreed at this lecture that everything in management, everything in engineering, everything in the project has quality, has the property of quality, has the metric, can have a metric that will measure the quality of it. So now the question is where this metric is of a low value. So where the quality is not as we would expect. Maybe it's a quality of communication, the answer number 1. So we miscommunicate. So if we measure how good is the quality of communication, the answer will be it's a low quality. And because of that, the programmer failed. Answer 2, documentation. So maybe the documentation, the quality of documentation in general in the project suffers. So we need to fix that. Oh, maybe the requirements. Option number 3, maybe the requirements engineering, requirements management, how we understand what needs to be done for the customer. This is where we fail. Or maybe the motivation. Maybe the system of motivating people is actually suffers from low quality. So there is no, it doesn't work as expected. So if we try to measure that mechanisms of motivating people, like giving them bonuses and punishing them when they fail, this system is misbalanced or something is wrong with it. So choose the answer you think is the most appropriate. And the final question, your best friend has been promoted while you know that his code contribution is smaller than yours and the quality is lower. So basically there's a guy sitting next to you and you know that his contribution is not as big as yours, and you know that he's of a lower quality programmer, so he writes less effective code. So basically you believe that he's junior and you are senior, let's put it this way. And then he got promoted and you haven't. So how you can get even, and you will want to get even. It will be difficult for you to ignore this situation. So what can you do in this case? First, you can't. You just quit the project. Maybe it's an option. Maybe there is no option, so you just quit the project. Option 2, you stop considering him as a friend. So if he did that, if this happens, if this happened, then he probably somehow impacted this decision, enforced this decision. Well, it contributed to the decision of the boss. So maybe he did it behind your back. So anyway, he's not a friend anymore. Also an option. Option 3, you tell your boss it's not fair. So you just go to the boss and ask what's going on. Like, why did you promote him if I am better? If I know he's not better than me, so he's worse. So you basically rat on your friend. Anyway, call it the way you call it, but you talk to the boss about it. Or option number 4, you move your desk closer to the boss. So you just sit closer to the boss and make sure the boss knows more about you. Maybe this is also an option. Okay, now we have 8 answers from you, and now let me give you the right answers. Again, remember that these lectures, all this course is very opinionated. So I give you I give you my own opinions about everything. So don't take it as an ultimate truth. Don't take it as a final, absolute truth. It's just my opinion. And I try to base my opinions on the PMBOK, on the knowledge I got from PMBOK. So everything basically about project management I got from PMBOK, from Project Management Body of Knowledge. Well, I read other books as well, but I can tell you that this book, the PMBOK, and specifically the book of Rita Mulcahy, which I will recommend you definitely in the next few lectures, this was the book which actually put all the pieces together in my understanding of management. So I was doing management for years, and I was managing software teams, and I was thinking how to do it right, how to coordinate what people do, and how to make sure the team moves forward productively and delivers what is expected. And then the PMBOK and the Book of Rita, they put everything together. So what I'm telling you is my experience plus the knowledge I got from PMBOK. This is like an introduction to the very opinionated answers I'll give you now. Question 1, the customer asks, what's up? How's my project going? What do you answer? So basically, the customer wants to know whether the project will be completed on time and within the budget. This is what all customers wants to know. They don't care about how you communicate with your programmers. They don't care much about how much lines of code you write. They don't care so much about how do you position your tasks on the scope of the entire of the entire work breakdown structure. It all doesn't matter. So the customer cares about these two numbers basically, about uh, the CPI and the SPI. CPI means that if the CPI is negative, the CPI means that we are under the budget. So we spend less than we should spend at this point of time according to our plan, which is good. And the positive the number which is bigger than 1 for the SPI means that we are behind the schedule. So we are I think I make a mistake here. I think it's the other way around. So we are the number, basically the question is whether the number stays between 0, 1 and more than 1. So this is the area which is negative. And this is the area which is positive. So if the number is above 1, then it means that we are doing okay or even better than we planned. So SPI 1.12 means that we are ahead of schedule. So we are moving faster than we planned. And the number which is below 1 in the CPI means that we are overspending the budget. Again, I can make a mistake in these numbers. You read about this earned value management, but the question here is about communications. So we may communicate this information to the customer, and that should be enough for the customer. It should be enough for them to understand what's going on. So the right answers they're in this area, and this is definitely not the right answer, because in this case you don't communicate the reality, which is your job as a project manager, is to know what's going on and then communicate it to the customer. So you need to observe the reality, as I told you many times, and predict the future. So here's how you predict the future. You tell the customer that if my number is 1.12, it means that we will probably, most definitely, will run out of time. We will have to spend more time to complete the project than you were thinking, that we told you, that we promised you. So you need to inform your customer as soon as possible about that. So your job as a project manager is not to make sure the project will complete on time. This is not what you can do as a project manager. This is what programmers do. This is what DevOps people do. This is what designers and testers do. You don't complete the project. You don't write the code. Your job is to observe what they do, plan according to what they see, plan their work forward, just allocate their work properly, distribute the tasks among them. And actually, you don't even distribute the tasks. You let them distribute the tasks. You ask them to decide who will do that, who will do what, because you're not a programmer, let's say. You don't understand what they do. Let's say you manage a group of dentists, a group of doctors who you have no idea what they do. You have no idea how they work, but you're the project manager. So you let them decide which task will be completed after which. You organize the communication between them, and then you observe the reality and forecast the future. You see, oh, I see there's 100 tasks they planned because they told me about that, and they already completed 20 of them. So 80 tasks are not completed yet, and we still have time, but this time is much smaller than the time they spent to complete the 20 tasks. So what does it tell you about? It tells you that the project will run out of time. And your job is not to become a doctor, not to sit next to them and start helping them and mentoring them and motivating them. That will only discourage them. They will look at you with a smile. Like, what are you doing? You have no idea what we do. You have no idea how to write code or how to treat the patients. You don't do that. You just ask them what's going on. You collect this information together and deliver the information to the customer. So this is your job. The communication between you and the doctors, these dentists, is about collecting information about their progress. And then you communicate to the customer regularly so that the customer knows exactly when the project will fail, or when the project will finish, or when the project will succeed. This is the information you deliver. So this is absolutely not the right answer. We're fully committed to deliver on time. He doesn't care whether you're committed or not. He doesn't care about your promises. He wants to know the reality. He wants to know the forecast based on numbers. So these two answers are okay. Well, this one is worse because there are no numbers. What does it mean behind the schedule? How much behind? The customer will ask the next question. If you deliver this information, the next question will be under budget. Under budget by how much? So how much money? Tell me the numbers. So this is much better answer where you give the numbers. Of course, the customer may not understand your numbers. So this is the best answer. The best answer is why do you ask? It means that why do you ask? Haven't I delivered this information to you earlier? So if you're a good project manager, this information has to be already in the hands of the customer. He or she or they must already have it. All the customers, because customers usually they're plural, they're multiple customers, they're a group of people. So this group of people has to receive the information from you before they even start thinking about it, before they start worrying about it. And the way you deliver this information must be explanatory enough for them to understand. So if you just start working with a customer who you don't know, this is the first time customer, then this information will be most probably understood wrongly because they don't know what it is. Most customers are not educated enough to understand project management principles and project management science, the science of project management. So they don't know what is earned value management. So your job as a project manager is to educate the customer, not only to deliver the information to the customer, but to sit down together with the customer and train them and educate them. So make sure they understand the information you deliver. It's not enough just to deliver the information. It's important to make sure they understand you. And actually, I believe in this formula that if you don't understand me, it's my fault. And you should, I think you should also believe in this philosophy as well when you do project management. So when you deliver information to certain parties and when you communicate with anybody, when you participate in the meetings, everywhere, your job is to explain. If you cannot explain, if the person who you deliver to says, I don't understand you, it doesn't mean he's stupid. It doesn't mean he doesn't want to understand. It doesn't mean he's guilty. That's his fault. No, no, no. It's your fault. So you need to continue explaining. And if you see that you're not being understood, fix yourself. Fix the way you deliver the information. So the same here. If your customer gets these two numbers and says, what is this? then you just sit down and tell them and educate and train them and make sure they understand. And the best way is not to do it in a personal meeting, but to make a proper document which explains it. Very short, very compact, very uh, concise, very full of links to the proper places where they can find more information. So you deliver a report, let's say every day, let's say every week, every day preferably. But better even deliver when the situation changes. So when the situation changes to the positive way or the negative way, you immediately deliver the status information. And in the best project management scenario, a robot should do this, or the script, the software should just collect the information about project management reality, just pack it all in one piece and send it to the customer by email and make sure they receive it. In this case, they will not call you, they will not ask you. And this will be the ideal project management situation. They get it, they receive it, and they get it. They receive it and they understand it. That's the way you communicate to the customer with numbers. Question 2. A new programmer joins your team. How do you explain her the architecture of the software? Well, all of these answers are more or less okay. So that's all about communications as well. So you need to communicate the information about your technical situation to a newcomer, to a new person who just joined your team. There are a number of ways to communicate the information. The first way is through the meetings. So when you make sure that people talk to each other, it's called face-to-face communication. In this case, you kind of push the information to her, and you try to make her understand. But this is the push scenario. So she didn't ask for it. She was not interested to know how your database is designed. She didn't ask the question. She was just quietly sitting in the meeting and just listening. And you guys are telling her, this is our database, this is our microservice, this is our controllers, this is our uh, mesh, whatever, I don't know, something in your architecture. And she's just listening. Okay, all right, yeah. She was not wondering about that. You're pushing. That's one approach to send information. Show the code is also kind of a pushy way. So you're just giving her all the code and say, please study this code. And she will just look around this code and try to learn something, but again, without questioning, without being curious about what's going on. She just got the piece of code, and now her job is to study. It's like a school. It's like what I'm doing to you now. So I'm pushing this information to you. You don't ask me questions. I mean, you're sitting quiet right now. You didn't even join this course with a set of questions, I believe. The majority of you, maybe some of you had some questions in the beginning, but the majority of you just came in to the university, and your parents and your self-consciousness told you that you need to study. So then you started, and all the professors, all the teachers, they just push information to you, and you're just quietly listening. This is the mechanism which we use in schools, because otherwise, if we don't push the information to kids, to students, then they will learn nothing. They will do something else. They will not ask any questions. They're kids. So we don't trust them. We don't trust their desire or their will to study, to become smarter, to learn how to read, how to write, how to do math, how to do physics, how to write code. We don't believe that kids are by themselves will want to do that. So that's why we use the push mechanism. We just don't ask them. We enforce the learning. This is the same. Show her the code. We just show the code. And the answer 1 is probably the most effective, I believe, in these 3 options, is when you, instead of so much pushing, you just let her observe how other people work. And in this case, it's not exactly the pushy way. It's more like a more safe and more respectful way, because she will actually do something. She will start immediately do something. She will sit next to another programmer, and they will together immediately start contributing to the code, and they will have questions, and these questions will be answered by this mentor. So I believe that the right answer is this, and it means the pull mode. So instead of disrespecting her, treating her as a kid. We expect her to be a grown-up adult who came to the project with a desire, with a will to contribute, to make money, to make something good for the project, something good for humanity, whatever. So we trust that person as as somebody with its own motivational mechanisms. And we just say, start writing the code, start making money, start contributing. And when you have questions, you come to us and we answer them. So we don't explain. We don't explain to her anything. We just say everything that you need to know. Here is how you can obtain this information. Here is how you can fetch this information from us. This is the wiki page where we put all the details. This is the ticketing system where you can post a new ticket and somebody will answer this ticket. This is the architect. This is his email, or this is his room where he sits. So you come to the architect and he will answer your questions at this point of time. This is the format of asking, because we cannot, if the team is big, so we cannot allow everybody to just enter the room any time. So let's say every morning from, I don't know, from 10 to 12, this room is open and you can join you can schedule a meeting with the architect and he will or she will answer the questions you have. So this is the pull mechanism. So we just explain the channels of communication. We explain to her how she can pull information from us, and then let her be. Let her do the work. Maybe she will not have any questions. Maybe she's smart enough just to open the code base and just start coding and start making changes. She doesn't need the meeting. She doesn't need to sit together with the entire team and listen to all this information about database, about this and that. Maybe she doesn't need that. She doesn't work with the database. She works with something else. And that's okay for her. It's her problem where to get whether the information is necessary. Maybe she's smart enough to work without our explanation. So we don't treat people as kids. We don't push information to them. We let them pull, in my opinion. That's the best organization of communications in a project. And your job as a project manager is to set up these mechanisms of information retrieval so that anybody will know how to retrieve the information. So that nobody will wonder walking around the office and saying, who knows something about the database? Who is the designer? Hey, please help me. And everybody said, I don't know, ask him. That's a failure of a project management. That's going to be your failure if you are a project manager. But if information is available, if everything is set up, all these rules of how to get it, then you did your job. Then let them do their own job. Let them write the code. Let them ask each other. You just stand outside and observe. And if you see that some communication mechanisms are broken, then you step in and improve them. But you don't teach anybody. You don't just, if let's say she's walking around the office and wondering and asking everybody who knows something about the database. You see this as a project manager. You don't just go to her and just say, oh, I'm gonna help you. Let me find the right person. Let's go together. I'm gonna solve this problem for you. No, this is a very reactive and wrong way of dealing with problems. You just see what happens. You see that she can't find this information. And then you ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Where didn't I tell newcomers? Where didn't I write to newcomers how to get this information? Then you get back to this documentation, to this electronic setup of your information flows and fix there. And then you ask her, hey, stop going around the office. Go back. We updated the documentation. We updated the guideline for newcomers. We updated the communication management plan, which is stick to the wall and just check your wall in your room, in your office, and you will see that's a new principle, new guide, new guideline, new instruction. And she'll be like, okay, let me check it. She gets back, check it, and says, thank you very much. So you didn't help her, you helped everybody. So everybody will enjoy this new guideline. So that's all about this pull versus push mechanisms. This is for kids, for you, in schools, because without that, you're not going to ask any questions. You're not going to even attend the lectures. You will do something else. But that's because you're kids. Well, you're students already. You're not kids. But for kids, we just force and force. For students, we try to balance the pull and push mode. But still, we prefer this, teachers in school, the universities, they prefer to push you because, again, they don't trust you. They don't trust your ability to ask the proper questions. We just think that majority of you are not the people who can control themselves that much. But when you graduate, then we treat you as self-sufficient individuals. Question 3. On a daily stand-up meeting, one programmer, when you ask him, what have you done yesterday, keeps saying, I don't remember. You know about these stand-up meetings where people stand in a circle looking at each other and they share the information about what have they done yesterday and what are they planning to do tomorrow, and they tell everybody the problems. Like, I cannot solve my tasks because you haven't finished yours, or because the database is not ready, or because the server is not configured yet. So they share this, they kind of update each other. So, and then one guy says, I don't remember. So he's sabotaging this mechanism. He just doesn't feel, we don't know the reason. The question doesn't say the reason why he does that. Maybe he doesn't feel comfortable sharing this information among everybody, because basically he works for the boss and the boss pays the money. So the team, the company pays the money. So he has the manager who tells him that he's responsible for these tasks, and these are the tasks which are in the backlog. So he knows that he has to get the task from the backlog, complete it, and get the money from the manager. So he doesn't feel comfortable sharing this report for everybody, because then everybody will judge him, everybody will sort of criticize him, everybody will look at the results and not always objectively judge them. And if the person is shy and the person is not so extrovert, then it may be a problem for that guy. Or maybe he just didn't complete anything. Maybe he just didn't do anything, and still he doesn't want to share it, and because he doesn't want to get the punishment in form of the so-called peer pressure, so in form of a pressure from the team. So we don't know the reason, but I think that in order to force them to do that, in order to make him tell us what was done yesterday, these three options are reasonably similar, but not one of them is the strongest one, and then this one is the softest one. So the option number 3 is when you know that he doesn't want to report, but you still want to get the information. So maybe you can ask him, okay, don't say it to everybody, but just email me in the morning. So I will, instead of you, I will just read it out loud. So I will say, hey, Jeffrey did this, this, and that. And Jeffrey will just stand quiet and listen to this information sharing. It may be okay. It's a solution. In this case, you don't even ask him what's going on. Like, why don't you? In this case, you ask him, so you talk to him. So you ask him what's happening. Maybe he will tell you that he's shy, he didn't complete anything, maybe he doesn't like the project, he doesn't like the team, maybe he has a personal conflict with somebody in the team, maybe he just doesn't like some guy who is standing in front of him. It may happen. There are tons of personality issues which may happen between people. And the option number 1 is also acceptable if you really want people who are ready to share their results every morning and who are ready to be like team players and be good friends to each other, and they're quite extrovert in order to share publicly. Then maybe this guy is not a good fit for your team. You just let him go to another team. But a professional management is about this. A professional manager is not organizing these stand-up meetings, in my opinion. I think this daily stand-ups is one of the worst inventions which we in computer science did over the last 30 years. So these daily stand-up meetings, they are, in my opinion, a replacement of proper project management, a replacement of proper communications in the team. So a proper project manager configures communication in the team the way that everybody knows what's going on in the area where they are supposed to know what's going on. Let's say we have a team of 10 people, and I'm a programmer, and I work on my task, and I get my task, then I complete it, the next day I get another task, the next week I get another task, and so on and so forth. So my responsibility area is my particular task. I'm not so much interested in what these 9 other people working with. I may be not even interested to know who these 9 people are. I may not even be interested on what they think about me. And I like it's a work, it's not my family. They're not my friends. So I care about I'm talking about one specific case. Maybe other people are different. Other people may say, no, 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 they are my friends. I want to share the information with them. I love to see them every morning. That's a different category of people. But I'm talking about some people who, like me, for example, I want to work on my task. I want to contribute my code. And maybe my code, my contribution is related to the work done by one guy and maybe another guy. So I know what they do, these 2 people, and I coordinate with them. I have no desire and I have no time to listen to what other people are doing, except from these 2. And actually, I don't care about what these 2 other people doing as well. I only care about how my results affect them and what they think about my results, if my results are being appraised by them, if my results are reviewed by them, then I care about their opinion. So that's a professional attitude. That's a professional communication set up by the project manager. A project manager isolates people around their tasks. And if they want to be friends outside of their tasks, it's their job. We don't force them to be friends. We don't force them to stand up in front of each other and talk to each other. They're grown-up adults. They're not kids. We don't do this kindergarten management, like standing up together and talking to each other. This is how you manage kids, like really small kids. You just stand them in the circle and say, hey, who touched the cat? The cat is crying. So who did that? And everybody like, no, not me, not me, not me. Yes, it was me. Don't do it anymore. Okay. And everybody looking at this, see this public punishment, and they learn, okay, we don't confuse the cat anymore, because you see what happened to Jeff. Jeff was punished by the I don't know what's the right name of this, the manager of the kindergarten. This is how you treat kids, because these kids are really driven by the guilt. So we can really drive them forward by enforcing this guilt, this guilt when they do something wrong. Professional people, professional developers, software developers, they don't care about guilt, and they don't want to care about guilt. They want to care about contributing and getting the reward for this. I write my code, I implement the feature, I put this feature to production, the customer is happy, I get the money, I get the reward, I get the celebration of this reward, and I go home to my family. And the project manager should organize this way of communication. So stand-up meetings is an instrument which managers use when they don't know how to do the proper project management, how to organize the flow of information, the way that everybody knows how to communicate to somebody who is relevant, who is related to my work outside of the stand-up meeting. So what's the point of talking in the stand-up meeting for half an hour or 15 minutes? I don't know how long it takes usually, but usually they take longer than half an hour. So people share the problems between each other. And other people who don't care about those particular problems, they have to listen as well. It's a waste of time. And again, it's not only waste of time, but it's very disrespectful to people. It's very offensive, I believe, to professional programmers, to senior programmers especially, maybe to junior programmers who just joined the team and who have no idea about anything, and the motivational mechanisms is broken in the team, and the communications are vague and not controlled, not under control. Then maybe in this case we say, okay, the stand-up meeting is may kill the symptoms. The stand-up meeting is maybe acceptable when the project management is totally broken, when nobody knows what to do, when you have no backlog, when you have no time management, when you have no earned value management, when you have no risk management, you have nothing. So you just let people somehow manage themselves. In this case, the stand-up meeting is okay. But if you are professional, don't do that. Question 4, you see that meetings in your team take too much time. People waste time in long and chaotic discussions. How do you fix this? Now we're talking about technical meetings, not stand-up meetings. About them, we already decided it's a wrong idea. We don't do them. This is the meetings where we discuss, let's say, which database to use or which programming language we're going to use for this particular framework. So these are the meetings where the discussion can take long and long. So all these options, these three, are good enough. They're equally good. So definitely when you do meetings, you need agendas. So when you start a meeting, you need to have an agenda of what this meeting, what are the decisions that need to be made on the meeting. You need to list the decision making point, not what are we planning to discuss, but what decisions we're planning to make. Think about this carefully. Agenda is not the structure. You're not structuring the time. Like first we discuss what is the best programming language. Second, we discuss what is the best language for this framework. No, you say first we decide the best programming language for us. Second, we decide what is the framework we're going to use. So you make two decisions. That's the right agenda structure. Second, the minutes. The minutes is the like a protocol of the meeting where you write down what decisions you've made. So you say, I've made a decision. The best language is Java. Then what's the best framework? The best framework is Spring. So we made two decisions, and this is the minutes. So you send these minutes to everybody by email when the meeting is over. And facilitator is the guy who keeps the meeting under control, who is sitting in the meeting, also maybe participating in the discussion. But when the discussion goes out of track and you start discussing your last team building and your last beer party, then the facilitator says, let's take it offline, and now we discuss again what is the best language. So this facilitator is trying to compress time. It's trying to lead everybody to decision-making points, asking everybody to make the decision instead of talking just for fun. So it's important. So all these three answers are good to answer. But the right answer is this. So I believe that meetings is something that we want to have less and less in software teams. So the meetings which we do for technical discussions, for making technical decisions, is ineffective form of communicating ideas between programmers for a number of reasons. Reason number one, not every programmer is equally strong in person and face-to-face communications. So one person is willing to strongly argue for the point he's making. Another person is shy. Another person is not willing to fight with people. Is not willing to argue loud. Is not willing to make enemies at the meetings over a technical dispute. So these people who may be smart, who may be even smarter than these big mouths who talk too much. So these shy people, they will keep their voice low, and they will prefer to stay quiet even when they see that the decisions being made by the team are wrong. So meetings, on the meetings, usually the people who are the most aggressive, they win. They take the microphone, they speak too much, they speak loud, and they finally force the team to make the decisions they want. That's one reason why meetings are wrong. The second reason is that on the meeting, it's the time is limited. So everybody, let's say the meeting is 1 hour, and we're trying to make the meetings within the 1 hour range. If the meeting takes longer than 1 hour, it's definitely a mistake of a facilitator. So 2 hours meetings are absolutely an indicator of a bad management and a bad work of the facilitator. So we are limited in time. We have just 1 hour. Most technical decisions, or let's say some technical decisions, cannot be made even by one person within such a small interval. So let's say you sit down and ask me to join the meeting, and you ask, what's the best framework to use? I need to study all the inputs. I need to study what other pros and cons. I need to study the requirements. I need to study the subject we're talking about. I need to learn the context. And that may take more time than 1 hour. So I want, and then when I formulate my answer, when I formulate the reasons why I suggest to use Spring Framework, I want to formulate them in writing. I want to explain them properly if I'm a professional engineer. The meeting will not allow me to do all of that. At the meeting, I have very small time slot for speaking, maybe 1 minute, maybe half a minute, maybe even a few seconds, where I will try to convince everybody of my points. It's ineffective. we will lose a lot of information this way. We will lose a lot of important information which people would contribute to the decision making otherwise, if we would let them do it in writing. So the right way to make technical decisions, let me finalize this point, is this. You make a draft of the decision. Maybe you're the project manager, so you make a draft of the decision. You say, this is the how we're supposed to make a decision, a document. Then you send this document to one contributor and ask this contributor to make changes, and make changes, labeling the changes with the name, so telling us who is the changes maker. And then you get these changes, the document gets bigger, you maybe polish it somehow, you maybe remove some of the information, maybe add it, then you send it to another contributor and ask, please contribute your thoughts. So put your thoughts in this document, so change it. Then you get the changes from there. Then you send it to another contributor, and so on and so forth. Maybe you make a number of circles around through the team. And then finally, you get a document with many changes there, which looks like a professional decision-making document. And then you put this document in the repository, you archive it, and everybody remembers who made the decision and why the decision was made. Then maybe you can put a meeting together for maybe 10 minutes where you just announce the decision and say, hey, everybody, you all contributed. You all know what we're talking about. So let me show what is the final decision. It looks like this. We decided to use this framework, this programming language. Why? Read the document. There are many, many reasons, all of them explained, all of them disputed, all of them have pros and cons. We discussed all of that. It's all in writing. And we put it into the repository. And in 2 years, anyone will be able to open it and see how the decision was made. This is a professional way of making technical decisions. No meetings. Meetings are bad for information flow, for communications. Meetings only destroy communications in the team. Meetings lose information. In the meetings, we'll lose information. I said destroy communications. I mean that they negatively contribute to the information flow. So communications between us in the team will suffer if we have meetings, and they will survive if we write everything in the documents and decision-making documents. Question 5. After you showed your team to work, after you allowed your team to work remotely, the performance of a few programmers dropped significantly. How do you fix this? It happens. You know, we all worked in the office before. Then after this pandemic situation, we started to work remotely, and not everybody are happy with this. Not everybody know how to work remotely. So they will just, most of people will, some people or most people will not be as effective remotely as in the office. And large companies now ask people to get back to the offices. You know about this. You read the news. They just understand, the companies, that remotely people basically don't do anything. And they explain this desire to put people back to the office with this philosophy. They say software development is not only about code writing. Software development is about communicating, it's about sharing ideas, it's about helping each other, it's about learning from each other. So get back to the office, sit here in your box and learn and mentor each other and share the information. I don't think it's true. I don't think it's reasonable to say that remotely people cannot communicate, cannot share, cannot learn and everything. I think differently. This one, answer number 1, will help, definitely. It will help people to feel guilty. Again, it's very close to stand-up meetings. So you call them every day, and if they don't do anything or they contribute not as effectively as everybody else, you enforce the feel of guilt. They will not be comfortable reporting to you face to face, to your face, that yes, I didn't do anything yesterday. For the majority of people, it is uncomfortable to do so. They will try to find some excuses. They will try to explain why it happens, but eventually they will start working, most probably. But that's not going to be very effective for you, very comfortable for you, because you will always be the bad guy. You will always be the guy who played the role of a kindergarten supervisor, who is putting the kids around him and just telling him what to do and checking how they do, and if they don't do, they shame them and they make sure they feel ashamed of this. So that's very unprofessional and not a way for a professional project manager, definitely. Well, fire him is better, fire them, because maybe they're not a good fit for the remote work. So some people, and maybe many people, I'm not saying most people, but there are many people who cannot, who don't, who cannot or who are not grown up adults. They're still kids. They still need this kindergarten management. They still need us to, not us, the managers, to stand on top of them and make sure they feel shame, they feel guilt every day. This is the way they work, they go forward. At the moment they feel no control, the moment they feel no pressure on top of them, they just stop working. They just do something else. They just watch TV. They just do something that is not related to work. They watch Facebook, they watch TV, and all that stuff. So unfortunately, these people exist. So maybe we can just get rid of them. And no, this is not the right answer. So maybe we can just get rid of them, and that will just help the project. It's an option. This one is okay. Ask them to get back to the office. This also may be not a bad option, because in this case you just return them back, and again you give them this pill of shame, this pill of guilt. So they're gonna get it every morning. They come to the office, they see everybody around, they're afraid of the manager, they're scared of the manager to see the Facebook on their monitor, so they just do something, at least something. That's an option. This is what big companies are doing right now. They just put people to their boxes where they give them the injection of guilt, and they work. But the right answer is this. So if people remote, if they stay remote and they don't contribute as much as you expect, this is because they don't want to. This is because you didn't motivate them enough. This is because you, as a project manager, didn't give them enough instruments, enough tools in order to be as effective remotely as in the office. So there could be two reasons. So I just put them together in one sentence, but there are two possible reasons why people don't work in general. This is for you, not really related to communications management, but for resources management. So I believe that people in general can be split into two categories: the people who don't want to work, and the people who cannot work. And there are some people who at the same time cannot and don't want. So people who cannot and don't want, we just fire them, because there is no way to fix this situation. It's very difficult. So this is a good option for them. But if people don't want to work, then you pay them more. They don't want. Why they don't want? Because they, for example, they get a salary by the end of the month, and then you let them sit at home. So why would they want to contribute? The money is coming. The manager is not watching their monitor. So why I would work? That's the category I don't want to work. Another category is I cannot work. So I cannot contribute. For example, the communication is broken. So I cannot see the task which I need to solve. I don't see the backlog. I don't see the I don't know the status update from other people in the team. I don't see the requirements coming from the customer. So in the office, the customer was coming to us every morning and telling us what to do. Now we're sitting from home and the customer is coming but not writing down the requirements. So we lose this information. So what can I do? I cannot work. So you as a manager need to fix both problems. First, if they don't want to work, you pay them more, but not exactly pay more, not just increase their salary, but make sure that their contribution is connected to the money they get. So they sit from home and you tell them, for every ticket you close, for every feature request you implement, for every bug report you fix, you get additional money. Now they become interested. Now they will want to work. So you solve this problem. Then you solve the next problem. They cannot. In this case, you take a look at what's going on and fix the communication channels. Make sure the information flow is set up correctly. But in this case, if this happens, they will tell you about this. It's not going to be the situation like it's described in this question, like you just see that the performance dropped. They will come to you because they want to work, and they come to you and ask, why can I see the information? I'm interested to work. I'm motivated. Give me the access to requirements. Give me the access to the backlog, all that stuff. So if they don't come, it means they either don't want or they belong to two categories at the same time: don't want and cannot. Then you just get rid of them. Question 6, your programmers are paid on a monthly basis, the same situation. So they just get money by the end of the month. It means they have absolutely zero motivation to work. If you pay them, whether they work or they don't work, most people will choose not to work. That's just the reality. Some people will work, but that's the minority. That's maybe 20% of them or something. But the majority of people, if you pay them by the end of the month, no matter what, and this is how most companies work, no matter what, so they have zero motivation for contribution. And at the same time, the project is boring, and the team and because of this, team performance is very low. So it seems that in this case, the people who, this minority of people who would still work, even though they're getting paid by the end of the month, no matter what. So the management tells them that we don't care about your performance, we don't care what you do, we just pay them no matter what. So basically, it's the signal being sent by the management, the signal of ignorance. So we don't care. Basically, the management doesn't care. So the majority of people will also don't care, but some people will. In this case, if the project is boring, even the minority will not care, because why would I care if everything is so bad? The whole situation is so bad. So what can you do? Communicate project objective regularly. That's not going to work, definitely, because in this case, you're not going to make the project less boring if you tell them. Well, you may, of course, yeah, okay. This answer may be acceptable, but I would not say it's the best answer. These two again returns us back to the same management configuration. So you may get people back to work by enforcing stronger communication with them. So by talking more actively, by seeing them face to face, you will trigger guilt in them. You will make them feel ashamed when they tell you that they don't do anything. Most people will trigger. In most people, this feeling will trigger. So they will feel uncomfortable to communicate with you as a boss, as a manager, to communicate negative results. They will try to fix something. They will try to do more before they talk to you. So these two options, they will work. So you may ask them to send daily reports, or you may organize daily meetings. But the best answer is this. So if this is these two elements are on the table, if everybody get the money no matter what, and at the same time the project has no interesting objectives, no fun for anybody, then you will not be able to do anything. No communications, no dancing around, no promises, no team buildings, nothing will fix the situation. So you try to fix this. Try to fix the motivational mechanisms. Try to make sure that people get the money when they contribute, when they deliver results. That will change everything. But by enforcing better communications without changing the motivational mechanism, nothing will help, in my opinion. So communications, they are secondary. The motivational schema, the resource management is first. So first you decide how you properly manage your resources, and then you start communicating this information to them, but not the other way around. Question 7, a programmer didn't complete his task and explains, I misunderstood the ticket description. Well, what's the low quality in this case? What is the problem? Why this may happen? So pay attention. Didn't complete. So there is zero result from the programmer. Nothing. And then he says, I misunderstood the description. So maybe it is a problem of communication. Definitely. But it means that, well, it's a problem of communication in the way that we didn't explain the ticket description. Who was writing the ticket didn't write it correctly. So maybe it was a very short, very sketchy description of the problem, which usually happens in bug tracking. And this description just briefly explained the problem, but is not enough for a programmer to really understand what needs to be done. So how do we fix this low quality? Well, we can organize maybe quality control of how we report bugs. So maybe we can assign somebody who will go into the backlog, go through all the tickets and check the quality of every bug report. And if the quality is low, if the bug report is not well understood, the ticket description is very sketchy, then we decrease the value of the metric, then we collect the total metric, and then we report this metric to the management, to project management, and then we think what we can do. Maybe we can train people to write better ticket descriptions, or maybe we can reject tickets with the very sketchy descriptions. Maybe we can punish people somehow for writing very short tickets. Maybe, I don't know, deduct their money from their salary. But that may be a joke. But we can reward people for writing good bug reports. So we can, for example, every month we select the best 5 bug reports written by programmers and give them some additional money on top of their salary. That will motivate everybody to become better ticket writers. It's a solution, maybe. It is an area where we can improve communication. The second is documentation. So if the ticket description is not clear, so maybe that person was not able to find more details in the documentation. So if you see that in the ticket, you see we need to fix the feature number 7 because it doesn't work according to the documentation. And I go to the documentation, and feature number 7 also has a very sketchy description. So I can't understand what needs to be done there. So it's a failure of the documentation. As well, we can fix that by using quality control. We talked about this a few lectures before. So you somehow set up the quality control, quality assurance, and quality control mechanisms for the documentation. So you observe how the documentation is written. You check some quality parameters, for example, the length of the description, the details provided. Maybe you do maybe you invite some external experts who will regularly review the documentation you have and will provide you their opinion. So you do it regularly, trying to increase the metrics, trying to increase the quality of documentation. That will help. Definitely will help in the future for programmers to understand their tasks and complete them. And requirements as well. So in this case, what needs to be done need to be also written somewhere. Requirements is what the customer or the customers need from us. So this must be in a written form somewhere where this programmer should be able to find it. So when the ticket is given, then most probably the ticket is related to some piece of the requirements. So something either doesn't work according to requirements, or the requirements must be enlarged. So we need to implement something on top of what was already implemented. So it's either the bug report or the feature request. In either case, it is connected to requirements. Actually, everything we do in the project is connected to requirements. We're not doing, as we discussed in the scope management lecture, we don't do anything which is not connected to what is said in the requirements document. So maybe this also related to this, but definitely the right answer is this. So if the programmer didn't complete the task and says I misunderstood the document, the ticket description, it means that he didn't want to, because we are sitting at the end of the task right now. He didn't complete. It's already over. We already expect him to deliver the results. And he was waiting until the end of this. He didn't come to us earlier. Well, that's what the ticket says. We don't know about this, but it looks like he didn't come to anybody earlier. He didn't raise the question. He didn't say, I don't know how to do it. Your documentation is broken. Your requirements are not complete. So please help me. He didn't say that. He was waiting till the end. And then when we ask him, okay, where's the task? Where's the code? He said, I misunderstood. It means he didn't want. He didn't want to find out the problems in the documentation. He didn't want to raise this concern. He didn't want. This is a low quality of motivational schema, of the motivational setup in the project. Most probably maybe his salary is too low. Maybe he gets this salary by the end of the month. Maybe he doesn't get any bonus for completing the task. He completes the task, one salary. He doesn't complete the task, the same salary. So what's the point of doing anything, of doing some extra effort and going the extra mile when the ticket description is not understood? Of course he's not going to do that. He doesn't want. Okay, and the last question. Your friend has been promoted, while you know that his code contribution is smaller than yours and the quality is lower. So how can you get even? Well, these situations are very usual, very typical in software teams, not only software teams, in other teams, when people have this because of the broken, I believe, because of the broken communication of their performance to their managers. So now we're talking more about you being a programmer, not a manager. So all the previous questions, you were in the position of a project manager. Now you're in the position of a programmer. So your job, I believe, is to communicate your results well enough, clearly enough to your boss, to make sure your boss knows that you're a great programmer. The boss knows that you're a super good contributor. The boss knows that you are busy doing something. And the majority of bosses, the majority of managers, they are not programmers. Or they were programmers long time ago, but they're not anymore. So they don't know exactly what you do. They don't know exactly what means writing Java code. They have no understanding of this. They know something else. And your job is to present yourself to the boss. And the best way to do this is to, unfortunately, it sounds very sarcastic, but it is true. So just be where your boss is. Just sit next to him or her. Just be in the same office. Just be in the same meeting. Be in the same. Just be where they are, the bosses, and they will believe that since they see you, you are working. Unfortunately, again, it's very unpleasant to say this and to to assume, to not to assume, to confirm this reality, this fact, but it is, according to my experience, is what's happening in most software teams. The bosses are not programmers, and that's the way they measure your quality, by the quality of communications. This lecture is about communications management. So the quality of communications between you and your boss is, I don't know, 90% contribution to your promotion. Not your code, not the code you write, not the quality of this code, not the amount of this code, not the number of problems you solve, not nothing. All of this is 10%. 90% is how you communicate your results to your boss, how you communicate yourself to your boss, not just your results, but yourself. What is the impression you give to your management? And according to this impression, they will make a decision. So this option maybe is not a bad idea, because if this is what happens in your project, if the boss doesn't understand who writes which code and has no desire or no skills to collect the proper metrics from the project, to collect the metrics which are related to your productivity, then maybe you can try to find another boss. But like I said, the majority of bosses are like this. So don't be the boss like this. If you don't know what your people are doing, if you're not a programmer, if you don't want to, if you have no time to understand their every line of code they write, then think about, somehow still you need to collect the proper metrics. You still to measure their productivity the way that they will feel happy about. So you ask them, what is the right way to measure your productivity? By what numbers? I don't want to measure your productivity subjectively. I don't want to measure whether you're a good programmer or not by the distance of you and me in the office. This is very, unprofessional way to do it. So if you're the manager, try to establish the proper mechanisms of communicating productivity back to you. So you need to know who is more productive, who is less productive. And by just subjectively observing them in the office and liking somebody and not liking somebody is not the right way. Some people, the best people, will choose this option if you are the manager of that kind. So these two are absolutely not good. I would say morally not good. So I would question the morality, your moral standards, if you do it this way. So first of all, judging people by the actions of other people is not really uh, how we supposed to treat people. And this is definitely wrong, to go to the boss and rat on your friend and say, hey, why did you give money to him? I'm better. In this case, as a friend, I would choose this. I would stop considering you a friend if you do this for me. The boss made a decision. That's his decision or her decision. You don't try to dispute this decision by lowering the position of me in order to raise the position of yours. So that's maybe a subject for another discussion, another maybe set of lectures, but definitely don't do either of that. So it's either one or the option number 4. Okay, that's the end. This is the homework for you. You can do communication management plan. So try to write down a very short document, 1 page, explaining newcomers to your project how they're supposed to communicate, how they're supposed to pull this information from your project. And this is just an example from PMBOK. They just suggest what to go into the project management plan. Just read the PMBOK, or you can read my slides. You can still read the text, even though it's small. So write down a small 1-page document where you explain exactly how new people communicate, how they fetch information, where to find it. This is my wiki page. This is my README file. This is the ticketing system. So when you have a question, submit a ticket, all that kind. So explain to me, let's say I'm a newcomer to your project. Explain to me what I need to do in order to learn what's going on in the project.